Hello and welcome to the Classic Hollywood Movie You Should Know. I'm Nate Washburn. This week is my 52nd film review. So I've done this for a year now, which is pretty incredible in my mind. But this week, in order to celebrate 1 year of doing these film reviews, I'm taking on Citizen Kane from 1941, the movie that gets listed AFI, American Film Institute's #1 greatest American film ever made. This is arguably the most influential film ever made. Citizen Kane stars Orson Welles and Joseph Cotten. It's written by Orson Welles and Herman Mankiewicz, directed by Orson Welles, and the cinematography is from Greg Toland. So Citizen Kane tells the story of newspaper magnate Charles Foster Kane. It's sort of his life story. And Welles and Mankiewicz loosely based their story on the life of William Randolph Hearst, which caused a lot of problems, which I'll get to momentarily. But the way the story is told, it's told in flashbacks. The camera angles are really interesting by Greg Toland. The lighting, there's a lot of shadows and darkness and extreme close-ups. All of these things were used prior to Citizen Kane, and yet this movie sort of synthesized everything. And it really, you can't underestimate how influential this film really is. Now, there's so much information about sort of the what gets referred to as the battle over Citizen Kane. There's a documentary about it. There's books about the making of this movie. Parallels between Charles Foster Kane and William Randolph Hearst. So if you're interested in that, there's a plethora of information about the battle and what Hearst did. Just to give a quick rundown, his papers would not carry any advertisements, any reviews. They wouldn't discuss Citizen Kane or Orson Welles. And Hearst had one of the most powerful newspaper empires in 1941. And without the advertising, without the reviews, it really damaged Citizen Kane's prospects at making a profit. RKO was able to get some theaters to screen the movie. They got some publicity in newspapers that Hearst didn't own. And the movie got great write-ups, great reviews. And when the Oscar nominations came out the following year in 1942, it got nominated for 9 Oscars. It only won 1 Oscar. It won Best Screenplay for Orson Welles and Herman Mankiewicz. But there's this story, and if you look up Oscar history, one of the biggest blunders in Oscar history is when Citizen Kane lost to How Green Was My Valley, a John Ford movie. I sort of disagree with that. I agree that Citizen Kane is a better movie than How Green Was My Valley, but it's amazing that Citizen Kane was even nominated for Best Picture. William Randolph Hearst had the ability to publicize secrets about people. He could destroy studios with his newspaper empire. So the fact that Citizen Kane even got nominated for Best Picture is amazing. Now, a couple little trivia things. One of the biggest things that pissed Hearst off the most is the character of Susan Alexander, who's the opera singer who Charles Foster Kane blows all this money, and she's like this talentless hack. Hearst thought that was based on his mistress, Marion Davies, who was a silent movie star. And actually, Orson Welles even admitted that Susan Alexander was opposite, almost, of Marion Davies. Because Marion Davies was actually quite a talented comedian at the time. In 1924, she was the #1 box office draw. And one other thing that's incredibly interesting, Louis B. Mayer had a close relationship with William Randolph Hearst. He tried to defuse the situation. He offered George Schaefer, who was the president of RKO Pictures at the time, he offered him $842,000, which was what it cost to make Citizen Kane, if Schaefer would destroy the negative and not release Citizen Kane. Again, it's amazing that this movie got made, but it's such a good thing that it did. Its influence has grown, its reputation has grown, and it is now listed as the greatest American movie that's ever been made. So if you haven't watched Citizen Kane, give it a watch. It is so worth your time. Great movie, great performances, and it is this week's Classic Hollywood Movie You Should Know. I'm Nate Washburn. Thanks for watching. Keep watching those classic films, and hopefully I'll be back doing this again soon. All right, bye.